The 2026 NFL Draft is less than 2 weeks away, and in this video, I want to dive into my 2026 NFL Mock Draft 2.0. Let's dive straight into it. First up, this is a pretty self-explanatory pick. We got Fernando Mendoza going to the Las Vegas Raiders. I have a few issues with Fernando Mendoza, but I think the addition of Kirk Cousins this offseason to give Fernando a year to learn how to play under center, to make full field read progressions, and ultimately not live in the RPO world is going to be really beneficial for him. I like his leadership. I like his football IQ. Love him as a player. Okay, next up at number 2, I think here we've got to go Arvell Reese as the New York Jets. You could go him, right? We could go David Bailey, Reuben Bain, but I think Arvell Reese at 20 years old has the most potential out of anyone in this class, so I love that pick. Here at number 3, we could go Jeremiyah Love once again, but we have Trey Benson. I think a running back at number 3 for a team as talent depleted as the Cardinals is an awful move. Could go Reuben Bain, but what I really like here is Francis Mauigoa out of Miami. Get a cornerstone tackle for your quarterback of the future that you're going to try to get in the 2027 NFL Draft. Here at number 4 with the Titans, this isn't the flashiest of moves because ultimately you're taking a running back and it's not really a valuable position in the NFL, but I think Jeremiyah Love is the best player in this class, really by far in my opinion. And I think getting him to pair up with Cam Ward, you're not doing it for Jeremiyah Love, you're doing it for Cam Ward to ultimately give him a weapon to help him be the franchise quarterback that I really think he can be. Loved his tape last year, a little bit inconsistent, but the highs were really, really high, and I think Titans fans have a lot to look forward to. Here at number 5, we could go Caleb Downs, we could go David Bailey, we could ultimately go Sonny Styles, right? If we went David Bailey, it's probably because we're trading away Kayvon Thibodeaux or something like that, right? But what I really like here, and I think what they really like, is going Sonny Styles, hybrid type of guy, can play safety, can play linebacker for you, really, really explosive athlete, ton of potential. I think that second level of that defense was really, really bad last year. Losing Bobby Okereke makes it even worse, so I think that's a position of need you got to get. I would personally rather go Caleb Downs right there, but he's not as flashy of a move because he doesn't have these high athletic scores like a lot of teams like taking inside of the top 5. Here at number 6, I think you keep the guy in Ohio and you go out and you get Carnell Tate. If Shedeur Sanders is going to try to be your QB of the future, I hope the Deshaun Watson experiment's over, but he needs a wide receiver to throw to, right? He's got Isaiah Bond, mid, Jerry Jeudy, ultimately really inconsistent. So go and get him a guy like Carnell Tate. Easily becomes an X on this team's roster. Like the move there. Here at number 7, I think you could go Reuben Bain, David Bailey, Caleb Downs, Mansour. I mean, you could pretty much go anything at this position because I think they're really talent depleted at this point in time. Really, really old roster. But what I really like them to do is go David Bailey, a guy who struggles against the run, but he's going to be a bona fide pass rusher in the NFL, going to be on the field on every single third down for you. And I think they need pass rush help to help them close out football games. Here at number 8, I don't love the pick because I think his arms are a little bit too short, but I think the Saints probably go Reuben Bain Jr. just because Carnell Tate isn't on the board. And I think that's going to give him a guy who can play anywhere on the defensive line for you other than nose tackle, obviously. And he's going to be a really scrappy player. Like I said, I think his short arms are going to be a little bit of a problem. He's not going to be as dominant as he was in college, but the NFL loves guys who show out on the biggest stages, and I think that's exactly what he did. So it's hard for me to believe he falls out of the top 10. I personally wouldn't take him in the top 10, but I'm not an NFL GM, at least not at this moment in time, right? So next up here at number 9, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs. You lose both of your top 2 corners. Both of them go to the Rams, one in a trade, one ultimately in free agency in Justin Watson and Trent McDuffie. I think you get Mansour. I think he's one of the safest picks in this draft to be a bona fide number 1 corner on a team. Love that move. Here at number 10, Cincinnati Bengals, I think you let Jesse Bates walk a couple years back, and that has been one of the biggest mistakes in your franchise's history, honestly. Your defense has looked awful. You've had to move on from your DC ever since then, and I think Caleb Downs is going to be a bona fide Pro Bowl level player on the back end of that defense. He makes everyone around him better, and I just love that pick for them. Here at number 11 with the Miami Dolphins, I think we're in a situation where we have to get talent, right? We traded away Jalen Waddle, and how do we ultimately get more talent on this roster? We replace him with a guy like Jordan Tyson, who I think is the best wide receiver in this class. I think ultimately he's one of those guys whose injury history is going to hurt him a little bit, but if he can stay consistently healthy for this team, I think you're looking at the next Justin Jefferson, and I don't say that lightly. I understand the type of player Justin Jefferson is, but if you just turn on his tape, have a video up on the channel, it's some really, really impressive stuff with both his release package and his route running. Here at number 12, you got the Dallas Cowboys, and I like them to go out and get help on that defense. I think you really wish Sonny Styles was here, but obviously he's gone by this point. CJ Allen, I think this is too early for him, but a guy I really like here is Jeremiyah McCoy. I think he'd be a bona fide top 10 pick if it weren't for his ACL tear, but I really like the Cowboys to get him. I think he's going to be ready for spring training and for the season to roll things in, right? Here at number 13, LA Rams, they've been looking to go get A.J. Brown this offseason, so do they take a wide receiver? I don't think Mekhi Lemon is the same type of player as a guy like A.J. Brown. Ultimately, in my opinion right here, I think you've kind of got to go either best player available at a position of need or just best player available in general because we're trying to win a Super Bowl really soon as the LA Rams, and I think Spencer Fano is going to be the best player at this spot for them. Not as high potential as a guy like Monroe Freeling, but I think Spencer Fano's bona fide, surefire, going to be a really good starter in the NFL. So I like that pick. Safe tackle. I think tackle was a position of need definitely down the stretch last year. Cost you the Falcons game. Cost you a little bit in the Seahawks game as well. Ultimately, that defense just has to step up more, in all honesty. Here at number 14, we've got the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think Mekhi Lemon fits because you have Zay Flowers already, and I think you're in a position where you kind of have to go best offensive lineman available. We're not taking another safety because we already have Kyle Hamilton, who's an all-pro type of player. I think the guard out of Penn State, one of the safest picks once again in this draft, a really great player just at the guard position, which isn't as valuable as a position like tackle or edge rusher, something like that you'd like to take with your first round pick. But guard's one of the worst positions on your team right now, and who better than to have a guy to block for Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in that read option game, right? Here at number 15, I really, really like the pick of Mesidor going right here to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think you need pass rushing help, and I think he's going to supply that for you and give you a position of need right there. Really great player. I think when you turn on the tape, he really flashes a lot. I like him more than Reuben Bain just simply because of the arm length. Here at number 16 with the New York Jets, I think we're in a situation where now Mekhi Lemon starts to make sense for them, right? You have Garrett Wilson as your X on the outside. You get a guy like Mekhi Lemon who's really difficult to guard in the slot. I don't like his hand size or arm length or height or weight or anything like that, honestly. His measurables aren't the best, but I think he's a natural football player. Have a video on him up on the channel. He's really good when the pocket collapses and the quarterback's got to get out, right? Great in scramble drill. Great at settling in open space, right? Really good football player, high football IQ. Don't think he's got the right mentality, honestly, from some of the things I've seen on film and at the NFL Combine, ultimately. So here at number 17, we've got the Detroit Lions, and I think they've put themselves in a spot where they have to go O-line. They let Dan Skipper walk. Frank Ragnow couldn't come back last season because he couldn't pass his physical. I think Monroe Freeling's the type of guy who's ultimately got a ton of potential. I think he fits what Dan Campbell would look for in an offensive lineman. Ultimately really raw, but I think to pair up him with Penei Sewell, I think for the next decade, if you can help Monroe Freeling reach that potential, you've got your bona fide tackles, right? Here at number 18 with the Minnesota Vikings, I think you need a safety to ultimately replace Harrison Smith, and I think a safety that would work perfectly in this defense is Dylan Thyman at Oregon, right? Replace a guy who's been on your team for 15 plus years in Harrison Smith. Fits that Brian Flores defense, in my opinion. Love the pick. Here at 19, you can do a couple of things. If you're the Carolina Panthers, you can go Kenyon Sadiq. You can look for an explosive wide receiver like a guy like Omar Cooper Jr. or something like that. What I like them to do is go Kenyon Sadiq, right? Kenyon Sadiq, Tommy Tremble, Tedero McMillan, Jalen Coker. You got Jimmy Horn Jr., who's a really fast guy to put on the field in those third and long situations. I ultimately love that for them. Here you got the Dallas Cowboys again. We go corner with our first pick. CJ Allen falling to us here is going to be a home run type of pick right here because you need help on that second level of defense. That's how you ultimately turn around a really bad defense and turn them into a really solid one. Here at pick 21 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they're kind of in a weird position in this draft. They're in limbo. Is Aaron Rodgers coming back? Is he not? I personally like Will Howard to keep that job for this season. See what you got in him, and then ultimately draft quarterback next year if he's not the type of player you hope for him to be. I think you could use a guard right here. I think an extra receiver never hurts anybody, especially not a team like the Steelers. Do you give up ultimately on your tackle, Broderick Jones? I don't know. I think Omar Cooper Jr. is honestly my favorite player right here for them. You need a receiver to pair up with DK Metcalf, and I think Omar Cooper Jr. fits that for you really, really well. Here at pick 22 with the LA Chargers, you have a guy like Derwin James, but you could use another safety. Do you ultimately build the best safety tandem in the NFL, maybe outside of the Atlanta Falcons? You know, they got Jesse Bates and Xavier Watts really showed up last season for them. Do you continue to solidify that offensive line that lacked depth last year, ultimately costing you in the playoffs? There's really not a great wide receiver left here other than maybe Denzel Boston, but he's like a 6'4" type of guy who doesn't create a ton of separation. Do you go with the KC Concepcion? Probably not, ultimately, because you're in a situation with KC where he's super fast, going to be in the slot. Lad McConkey already has that position unlocked for you, I think. I think you're kind of in no man's land. I think McNeil Warren's the best player available right here, but a guy like ultimately Emmanuel Pranon out of Georgia is going to be a really solid piece there on the interior O-line. You can replace that awful Mekhi Becton contract or put him on the other side of the O-line right there at left guard. I don't really know what to do here. I would probably think if we're thinking about Jim Harbaugh, we probably go Pranon here. Love that pick for them. Ultimately, would not be surprised if they get McNeil Warren out of Toledo. He just plays that same type of role, in my opinion, as a guy like Derwin James. And it's great to have positionless chess pieces like that on a defense. But ultimately, in my opinion, I think you got to solidify that O-line, help Justin Herbert be who he is, which I think is a top 6 quarterback in football when he's at his best. Here with the Philadelphia Eagles, man, do you try to go out and get a wide receiver to replace A.J. Brown? What's that going to look like? Is he going to be in New England? Like, what's going on with that? I think we did a really great job going out and filling in a position of need at corner. You probably have the best cornerback room in the entire NFL right now. So I think you just continue to build on your strengths as a team, and you either go Keldrick Faulk or McNeil Warren because you need a safety, but you don't need a safety much because you can ultimately roll Cooper DeJean back if you need to, but I think he's really, really good in the slot, right? So I would go McNeil Warren because you lost Reed Blankenship. Solidify that secondary, have the best secondary in football, and let Vic Fangio be Vic Fangio. Hope Jalen Hurts kind of bounces back this season and trust the new OC to ultimately take over things there. Here, Cleveland, I think you're kind of in a situation where you're forced to go O-line in this position. I like Blake Miller more than Caden Proctor. I really do. So I like them to go Blake Miller right here. You get a tackle, you get a wide receiver. I think you win the first round right there if you do that. Here, Chicago Bears, they obviously lose their center, retired really early for really no reason in my opinion. I think you're a team that loves to play man coverage on the back end, so could you use a corner? Yes, Avion Terrell Small, though I don't know if he can match up well with tight ends and stuff like that, and the type of team you are. You like to run the ball, force other team to run the ball, so I don't think he'd be on the field too much. I like Keldrick Faulk here, though. I think you need to shore up that D-line even more, and it's either him or Caden McDonald, in my opinion, right there. Next up, the Buffalo Bills. I don't like Cassius Howell because short arms, right? We've got Caden Proctor, but we don't really need any tackle help. Caden McDonald I really like here as my best player available for the Bills. You'd like to get a wide receiver, but I don't think you can take a chance on another big guy that can't separate in Denzel Boston. Next up with the San Francisco 49ers, you need interior O-line. You can get a tackle ultimately to back up. Trent Williams probably only got a year or two left in him. You don't really need a corner too much. Another wide receiver never hurts you, especially when you're going through the situations you're going through right now with the Brandon Ayuk situation where he won't be on the team next year. I really like the idea of you going out and getting Caleb Lamu right here, a guy who can play guard and tackle for you, or Max Ironanker. I want to say Max Ironanker is probably the best player here, right? More of a tackle than a guy who could play in at guard, but if you give him an extra season, he could potentially do both. Here with the Texans, I think you have to go best O-lineman available, and I think in your situation, you got to go Caleb Lamu for sure. I don't think Caden Proctor can play guard either in the league. Here at 29, we got the Kansas City Chiefs. Man, I don't really know what to do for the Chiefs, honestly. Do we take a second corner and get our slot guy in Avion Terrell? I think he's really, really good to be sitting here at 29. I don't think we need a 6'4 receiver. Do we go after a guy like Caleb Banks? Chris Jones is getting older, right? Do we get Colton Hood? I really like the idea of going out and getting Colton Hood. Ensure that secondary gets back to exactly how it was, right? Use that first round pick to get a rookie contract. Bottom half of the second round. Love that right there. I think you get 2 of the top 3 corners in this draft, at least outside corners. Here at 30, you got the Miami Dolphins, and I think they're in a position where they'd be really good to go out and get Avion Terrell, right? You get that DB, right? He's going to be in the slot, obviously, which isn't going to help as much as an outside corner, but you get the DB and you get the wide receiver in Jordan Tyson, help put foundational blocks up with this new coaching staff. Here at 31 with the New England Patriots, do you replace Morgan Moses with a guy like Caden Proctor? Obviously, you can't really get out of that Will Campbell pick just yet. Still believe in the kid. I just think, man, he's got a long road ahead of him, in all honesty. Do you go with a guy like Zion Young, right? I think he could sneak into the first round here. Peter Woods even, Caleb Banks even, TJ Parker even. I mean, there's just, if you want pass rush, this is really a good spot to get it, but I like you to go out and get Caden Proctor. I think you clearly see you struggled on the right side of that offensive line and the left side of that offensive line. Ultimately, in the Super Bowl, really had no shot. Now, was that the blitzes? Was it Morgan Moses giving us a tell that it was a run or a pass? Who really knows? But I think Caden Proctor can do you some good there. Here, we got the Seattle Seahawks, and I think we're in a situation where we would really like to go secondary here, but there's really no one available other than D'Angelo Ponds. I love the type of player he is. I love how he plays, but I think he's a round 2 type of guy. I think we're in a situation here where TJ Parker might just be the best edge available. In my opinion, played a really good game against North Carolina. Struggled a little bit, I would say, against Duke and Louisville this season. I would say TJ Parker, right? Help build that up. I think ultimately you care more about secondary if you're them than anything else, but you're in a situation here where we want to go best player available, and I don't think that's the secondary right here. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and see you.